A Multiplication of Lives by Diana Reed. This story was published in the spring 1986 issue of Interzone magazine and was unfortunately the author's only known story, as she quickly went on to work for the BBC and eventually become a radio producer. Read by Darrell T. Smith II for my channel Quasar Spectra. A Multiplication of Lives. Top form. Matt became captain an hour ago, but I can hold sane another hour yet. The drugs that in every phase determine the range and timbre of my thoughts peak rapidly, but their decay is relatively slow. This is a rare interval. I am at my maximum intellectual ability for this cycle, but free of responsibilities to and for the others aboard our enclosed traveling world. Should I have looked for Jan rather than writing this? I'm still rational enough to answer, no. A subjective record will be useful in later times, when the cycle is broken. But I don't look back to past pages, past phases of the cycle. The I of this moment is so unlike the self I remember being at other times, other seasons, as to be almost a stranger. The cycle was dampened to near normal mood fluctuation when I first met Jan de la Mer. We were each objects of curiosity at a mildly high-life party. He, a metaphysician specializing in the theory of the matrix of universes, I, a child of that matrix. He had read my poetry, or rather Laura Winter's poetry, stemming from the ever-recurring phase of depression, the steep, weary slope following the trough of dark, dead sleep that leads at last to the light and the sky until I topple over the ridge again, down the hill, helter-skelter, back to the night between the waves and the next melancholy awakening. At first we went together to plays and concerts, read the same books, talked to each other as if each was the other's self, with perfect trust, confidence, and understanding. I decided to leave the authorities' service to enjoy the autonomy of emotion, the subtle fluctuations of mood, responding freely in any situation basic to ordinary life. On Earth, the I who made that decision and the Jan she loves live together, I hope with contentment, if not in constant happiness. Maybe there is a child. On Earth alone, there were 6 of us sharing the name and being of Laura Winter, but the authority would allow the only terrestrial Mr. and Mrs. de la Mer that much for the cooperation of this Jan and I in this universe. They say that every project is special. Every project's costs must include the price of the lives it gives. This one is non-standard, to satisfy the unreasonable demands of an old woman, now dead. We can be demanding too, Jan and I. Jan more than I, for he was unique, only one of him in all the universes. His price was birthright for our child. A boy we will have named Michael, after Jan's great-grandfather, Michael Cohen. Yes, the Michael Cohen who, in failing to invent a matter transmitter, nevertheless created, or patterned, or refracted, use the term you wish, though the latter comes nearest to accuracy, an ident. Where? How can we place a universe that in no way seems to impinge on ours, which is so estranged that however far that first Cohen traveled, at whatever speed, he could never have reached his second self? Now we know so many universes, accepting the mathematician's proof of their infinity so casually that the images have crystallized beyond recall, an unending latticework, realms of order encysted in an incomprehensible matrix. If the child is a girl, she is named for my grandmother, Ariadne Winter, and most particularly for the Granny Ariadne I knew so well, the ident far branched from her original and remembering scores of universes, rather than the earth dweller who had pioneered the mood cycle. She is the old woman whose unreasonable demands brought us here. She had her reasons, though she refused to give them. When we land, maybe we will find out what they were. I saw her occasionally in company with her selves, her more-than-sister idents who sat on the committees, who held power in the authority. It seemed to me that they could not deny her, though they did not want to know what she had learned about herself and her lives. Fearing, they blindfolded themselves and let themselves be led. It was easy enough to clothe the real reasons for their submission in specious justifications. New plants, animals, and crystals to copy home. They did not want the other knowledge that possessed her. I never knew my parents. Granny Ariadne made sure I was looked after, took me away on holidays, talked to me, seemed to care for me. She saw to it that, though I was grown on from childhood by the fastest factor possible, I did not suffer from it. At school, they packed my brain with ordinary words and facts. She told me stories, shaped my ambitions and values, entertained me, and sometimes my friends, so that I rarely felt deprived of the mother and father I did not possess. And she, too, was working in the cyclic pattern, and must have needed all the single-minded, almost ruthless determination that has made more than one Ariadne Winter famous and powerful. No one loved me as much as she did. Until Jan. Maybe he's waiting for me, or talking to Gale. I must find him. It's been a long time since we laughed freely, and there's time now. It's really quite a good thing that we can't refract immediately onto another planet. There'll be no time for laughing when we arrive. And now I'm beginning to feel lighter, as if truly a load has been lifted from my back. I have kinder clothes packed small in store, and scents and colors waiting for employment. I can't remember dates or coordinates. Why should I? Matt is captain now. Later, over the top. No one seems to be at all cheerful or happy. I laugh and tell them jokes and feel so much energy running through my body that I want to dance or run across a wide space so fast I'd leave the hard ground and swim in the air. Outside, there are friends to be made. A live life waiting, but we must wait, as caution makes unhappy machines of all but me. Isn't it exciting just being here on planet at last, where the ground will be firm beneath our feet for the rest of our lives? Isn't it a unique experience to have sprung into being in a new world, or rather in a new universe, a totally other void lit by suns that I, in my parallel incarnations, have never seen and will never see? With no homing beacon to guide us, only coordinates in the matrix, there's no pinpoint accuracy, and we must use probability as well as skill to bring about our harmless eruption into depths of empty space, nearer rather than further from New Naxos, but nevertheless far. I hope they never change it, never find better ways. The age-long cruise through a small part of this universe was our ship's final wedding flight. This I, on this world, can know there will be no more miracle transfers for this me, this stream of my network of beings. Other eyes, the Lauras of old divergencies, will most certainly diverge again as the network spreads beyond my full comprehension. But no reason to recreate this now self on Earth or anywhere else. no part of their future to hold me from whatever end I will. Emancipation. I am free of the need to think of more than my present self. The exhilaration of such resolution fills me with a powerful contentment, the forward surge of undivided interest. They did feel it. Last night, there wasn't much sleep for anyone, one way and another. The captain, of course, doesn't need to sleep, and I'm still awake 19 hours in 24. That's all part of the cycle, the system. Wonderful. If only he felt like this too. My fiancé, Jan Armand de la Mer. Jan, tall, dark, handsome? Not quite. A little taller than me, but my eyes can still look into his, even as he holds me close to him, and I feel the curves of his body and mine as utterly complementary, close and comforting, and the warm ache begins. He's dark. Yes, his hair's shadow black, and so sensuously coarse, adorably crinkly for my fingers to untangle, but his face is over pale, and his hazel eyes look beyond me, over my shoulder, and will not meet with mine. I wanted him so much that I went to find him. He wouldn't see me, not clearly, but called me his pretty siren, told me to wait, that everything would be better later. "Why did you come along?" I asked, "if you don't want me?" "To teach," he teased. "When the colony's set up, remember, that's my job here," he said. "That's not what I meant, and it's not why you're here. You didn't come for that." "I came because I love you," he said. "Then love me," I told him. "Not now, not like this. I love you when you're being you, not like this." He's a pig. No, the proverbial cold, hateful, distant iceberg, truly afraid to come near me in case he melts. I remember, but as if in a dream or even in someone else's dream, how we planned to live together, forever, happily ever after, one pair, us and an end to the system, in a little mission house on New Naxos. He laughed when I named him a missionary, but he did not object. I hope they're not cannibals out there. There were people beginning to gather outside the cooling ship just before sunset, keeping at a distance, watching. The captain confirmed that they were human. Instruments available to him could determine that fact, even though they were not clearly within eyeshot. Gale and I had been kept from the control area, sent down to the passenger saloon, out of the way. Authority always seems harsh, doesn't it? What makes it all the worse is that Jan stayed up there, did not choose to join us. I had some fun, all the same, with the rest of the colony team. With so little to see in the long, dark hours, we concentrated on having a party, a sort of home warming. They got warmed up, and not by fractions, but still not in a way to make Jan jealous. Almost felt there was some kind of gentle law, a social fence to protect his property. Gale slipped away halfway through the night to sit by Thomas, who lay in the Crystal Coffin. I told her to come away, have some fun, but she smiled, that weak, resigned smile, and asked me to leave her alone. I was glad to. I don't feel happy with such a heap of wet misery. Tears, drooping sighs, all that soulful melancholy and despair. She and Thomas will make a good pair when this is over and our ministry is underway. We bring with us a gift-wrapped package of human knowledge and culture, built over so many centuries, the rightful heritage even of such an unplanned, unwanted colony. But the giver must stay with the gift and live or die in its use. Thomas and Gale will give freely, with joy. They were chosen for that. So were we all chosen, to give and give, life after life. I fell asleep after the first light of dawn silhouetted those figures, dimly seen but coming closer as curiosity balanced fear, reminding me vaguely of something, some time long ago, a useless, indistinct form, scratching outside that overworked door of memory. Granny Ariadne, the she who had been there on my 6th-year marker day, romped through my dreams, an old lady splashing in the pool with the other children. I looked forward to her mad spells, disliked the severe Professor Ariadne Winter working in her study lab through the preceding month, and was afraid of the quiet, sinister she that appeared a month after my best granny disappeared into her gray time, as she named the time in the total care machine, the Crystal Coffin. It was my favorite Granny Ariadne who winked at me last night when I dreamed of her. "It was all true," she said. "You'll see. Those tales I told you of my world weren't so tall. You'll see." I always was her favorite. Splash and sing. Water splinters the heavens into 4 rotating veins, dividing the color-neutral light into rainbow shades, forever following in sequence. The cycle system. Ariadne Winter's system. Later, in full light, I saw this real world through the window. Perhaps 200 people stood outside the ship, so quietly. They were all women, a range of ages, from the untidy, impatient child in arms to one so old that it seemed amazing she could stand unsupported. We had no way of telling them that we were coming, but they must have been in some measure prepared to be hesitant, uncertain, and yet so intensely, confidently watchful and unafraid. Many people, but only one face, repeated perhaps 200 times. The identity was not immediately obvious. At every age, lines had changed. Different experiences had marked the same material in different ways, so that even among those who seemed near contemporaries, some were plumper than others. Some looked as if they smiled more easily, while others had been pinched by pain or unhappiness. Eyes, blue eyes flecked with green, were the only unvarying feature. How can I help laughing and laughing again when I think of those hundreds of eyes, all the same as those I remember from half a lifetime ago and other worlds away, and from a dream of an hour before? She had the technology. There were tools enough in the Explorer's module, comprehensive as could be designed. The knowledge was in her head. I'm suddenly sleepy. Time is slowing down. It's not comic, not at all, and I ought to tell them properly, clearly, as I would have at any other stage. It's cold. I'm cold. The windows are icing over. The colors freezing. The blood in my body is thickening in the weariness. Thomas has woken. He looks very solemn. Now I lay me down to rest. Thomas, like an alchemist or a learned owl. Why do we do this, cycle after cycle? Why do we accept such denial of the rhythms of our own being? The cold is so fierce that I am afraid to sleep, even the kindly sleep of our crystal coffin. No words in the crystal coffin, only dark rest and readjustment as the womb machine does its work. Later, the trough. I wish I was dead. Better yet, had never been born. Here the rough edge of intensity distorting the tone, even though the words have almost lost their meaning with the abuse of overuse. I look at myself in the mirror. My body has been preserved, but my face is wrongly shaped. The nose too long, the forehead too high. My hair falls in dispirited waves and is greasy, thin, and that's not the half of my self-disgust. I can't talk to anyone. There's a soft wall around me. The sounds come through, but the meanings are indolent, take time to arrive. I start to cry at the slightest excuse and cannot stop sobbing. Jan spends as much time with me as possible. He's so kind. I don't deserve his love, am unable to return it. He puts his arm around me and we sit together, still. I can't answer him if he offers me words. When he looks at me, I don't meet his gaze, but sometimes when he's thinking of something else, I stare and stare, for he's so remotely beautiful, even to the curve of his ear, the lean but not thin, never harsh face. The others hardly ever come near me. I cannot endure Gail's company, nor she mine. She is so gay, so happy, so insensitive. She makes me remember how I behaved at that phase of the cycle 2 months ago, and I feel such shame that something inside me curls up and howls in appalled horror. I wish I was dead. Matt, who follows me, now lies in the Crystal Coffin, and Thomas, who I follow, moves into Gale's place as captain. I can understand him not bothering over much with me, but I wish he would talk to me, as if I was an individual, not just his future replacement, another bar in the four-spoked wheel of power. I often sit in the control room, watching, listening to him discussing the situation with our two stable assistants. I must know what is happening, so that I shall be able to take command. We're all still here in the ship 2 months after arrival, and all he can do is try to negotiate. We offer only gifts, but they will not accept without conditions. Ridiculous conditions. Conditions they change and replace with others even more absurd. Thomas has recognized that the faces outside are Ariadne Winters, my Granny Ariadne. We wait. If they were all of one stream, all refractions of my granny, even from those years ago when one of her was created in this world's universe alone, then we could sympathize, understand from our own experience and knowledge. But the differences in age group show that these are siblings rather than idents, clones with completely unshared life experiences. To look back down the time stream of any one of them would not be to reach root experiences common to all. Thomas is marking time, hoping that when it comes to my turn as captain, I'll know what to do, since she was my Granny Ariadne and directed us here before she died, before she killed herself. She despised me. I can see that now, or rather had no regard for me as myself. I was content on earth. Only her promptings to my pride made me wish to multiply my life. That first I gained nothing except the doubtful satisfaction of knowing her ident could find an adventure, a fulfillment that she might one day feel a lack of. Sometimes I wonder, does the mirror never distort? How should I compare to my ident of a distant branching? We are pleased to believe that each I is equal to each other I, that the root has no priority over the branch, but surely there must be a responsibility not to place oneself in a situation that would be intolerable to that self. A multiplication of lives is naturally a multiplication of deaths. And as I grow older, I recall that infinity of possibilities for suffering, as much as satisfaction, with something more like despair. I have stood as an explorer on hostile worlds at the moment before return, knowing that I would come home, and also being the I that must stay behind and face the rest of my life there, short as I intended to allow it to be. When I was young, I thought all life was a gain. Now I am grown suddenly old, and those young lives are an unexpected burden. It is too late for responsibility. Only guilt remains. Is this the christening gift that turned her idents away from my Granny Ariadne, like the good godmothers at Aurora's baptism, horrified by the demon in one of their kind? Did they try to keep their knowledge of death, the poisoned spindle, from their kingdom? When the cumulative guilt of what she had done and had to do found her on New Naxos, She rose above despair to plan and put in motion one last superb, mad act of restitution for some of her betrayed selves on the rare world that could sustain life indefinitely. The demi-semi-Eden she named New Naxos. Without Granny Ariadne's encouragement, I should never have begun this life, let alone have come to her later self's universe. For why did she take such an uncharacteristic interest in me, if not to this end? Even my memories change. True, not in their exact content, but the character of each event seems different. It's so tangled that to simply understand the statement, I am, is an impossibility. What did Ariadne expect me to do? She left only hints of what form compensation should have, the form which a sequel should take, a sequel to her story of being stranded on this potentially rich world, of working through a near infinity of chances to emerge again on Earth with the knowledge of their relative positions in the Matrix. So many branchings, ending in nothing, to find by purest chance the one way through to home. So many lonely deaths. How could she beat the responsibility for them all? This part of the tale was incomplete. She had said nothing of the self-built nature of the society which supported her efforts. But should I wonder that the self who came home had a new madness, a fresh obsession? Outside those faces, I thought I comprehended my network of being, controlled it. I believed that, overall, I was unique. They said I looked like her, but photographs and likenesses deceive. She died old when I was young, but now I look outside and see so many faces, both young and old, that are one face. The oldest are hers, the younger mine. Granny Ariadne? I wish I were dead. Better yet, had never been born. Later. Top form. I am again sane, as capable and balanced as I shall ever be. The following statements are, to the best of my knowledge, true. A. The society outside is entirely composed of individuals genetically identical to myself. Some may be idents of each other, sharing experiences and memories, but none are my ident. We share only a basic physical structure. B. I am responsible for the welfare of a heterogeneous crew, with the overall aim of furthering the development of human civilization in this place and time. C. No ident of Ariadne Winter, my only parent, has come forward to talk to us, or seems to be an authority in the outside society. They are unsure of their origins, of what Earth means. Much knowledge has been lost, or never known, due to deficiencies in an otherwise acute mind. I never could manipulate advanced equations or cook a complicated meal. They know that each of them individually was created, and see no signs of their own evolution. Some even believe themselves to be machines or androids, at least to have no kinship with animal life. They experience loyalty, affection, and love for each other, but this is essentially a love of themselves. They cannot know how to love another, as I do Jan, for there have been no other than themselves for each to know. They need us, though not me, to experience a full range of social and emotional interaction, and cling to a promise or prophecy of a savior, a man who will come to them and live among them, with each of them, forever. D. A partial, gradual introduction of one extraordinarily desirable individual, i.e., Jan, would cause chaos and disintegration of the balance of this society, which in turn could endanger the survival of my own group here on the ship. E. We have facilities for local refraction to create as many idents of any individual as seems desirable. The decision and responsibility is mine. Others will carry out my orders, but I must act alone. The pattern Ariadne Winter willed for her descendants is clear to me now, but her will is not mine. There is an alternative, radical solution. Later, over the top. My clever Granny Ariadne knew that anyone I fancied, she'd probably start sweating for as well. That's crudely expressed, but it's true. 1,000,000 yawns, refracted, for 1,000,000 Ariadnes on this desert wilderness. All her plots and ambitions were so seductively, selfishly obscene to make up to herself for the many times given gift of death. Oh, if you were the only boy in the world, though of course there were others on the mission. I'm sure they'll come to some kind of arrangement, but I couldn't do that to Jan. My Jan. While there was any way to avoid the necessity. Technical feasibility is one thing, psychological possibility another. I won't share him, not even with myself. Nor would he agree. As sad Laura said, a multiplication of lives is a multiplication of deaths. Ariadne never considered the alternative, that Jan and I might take the ship and disappear, leaving no ident, no knowledge of what those other versions of herself had lost, making them rub along as best they might with humbler mortals of the team, not my own delicious Jan. So here we are, almost alone in a little private paradise, circuiting this sun forever. He all mine, and I all his, selfishly, unsharing. And I am happy, so awake, so overflowing with energy. Even the certainty that this is almost the very last phase of the cycle for me does not bring alarm. Although when I awake from the crystal coffin, my mood will be uncontrolled, normal, if normal can be normal when I have not in all my adult life been entirely removed from the system. Now, at this phase, I am incapable of fear. We're all right. We're lucky, happy, clear off the ground, free of the mess the team'll have to steer its way through Pussyfoot. I like to think of our disappearance as taking the trigger from my Granny Ariadne's sociomorphic superbomb. Then, when I think of the complex pattern of happenings that brought us here, of the system, refraction, all the aspects of this tangled being web, when I think of them all resulting in our voluntary exile from the only inhabitable world within a lifetime's travel, in a lifelong quarantine, stalemate, Ariadne O, us O, then I have to laugh. Or you've been listening to pre-1990s speculative fiction readings with a highlight on science fiction by Darrell T. Smith II. Please consider clicking the donation link in the description box. Thank you so much for your time and your imagination.